Good morning, Pacifica, and welcome to this Friday's assembly. This morning, we will have the privilege to hear from Dr. Kelly Flanagan. Dr. Flanagan, thank you so much for coming to Pacifica today and to share your thoughts on calling and purpose with our community. We are eager to hear what you have to say. I would also like to recognize and thank Ms. Jolene Bonson for arranging this wonderful opportunity, and just thank you for enriching our community and our learning. In a moment, Ms. Lucy Moore, our Director of Advancement, will come forward and introduce Mr. Flanagan. Before then, I invite you to join me in a word of prayer. Heavenly Father, we are quick to recognize your presence here with us. May the meditations of our hearts and the words of our mouth be pleasing to you. In Christ's name, amen. Now please join me in welcoming Ms. Lucy Moore.
Hi, it's great to see everyone. It's really fun to be here with students. I usually am talking to a bunch of parents, so a lot more fun having students. So I have a feeling that Dr. Kelly Flanagan, did not know what he was getting into when he came to California under Jolene's invitation. But this is the third of 3 talks he's given. The first he gave at Mariners Christian School yesterday, and some of you parents may have been there. And I heard it was wonderful. He spoke about worthiness and how we were all worthy. Last night, I had the privilege of seeing Dr. Flanagan speak at St. Andrews, and he spoke on belonging and the importance of belonging, what that looks like in our life. And then today he's going to be speaking to you about sort of the third leg of the stool that his book Lovable is all about. And that is about your calling and purpose in life. And I can't think of a more apt place to have that conversation than with high school students and with the parents of high school students, who I'm sure you're all starting to think, what's next? So I think Dr. Flanagan's talk is going to really help you focus on that and help you learn how to discern what God's plan is for your life. Dr. Flanagan.
Thank you. Let's do a mic check. We good? All right. I'm terrified that my zipper's down. Even though I checked it, I can't get away from that fear. First of all, I want to thank Jolene and David Bonson for bringing me here to your community. This is as I've learned since I got here, I did not know what I was getting into. It's a bold, audacious project that you're undertaking. I'm going to say some things here today that might not be welcome in most high schools in America, where the goal is to sort of put your soul to sleep and get you to follow in lockstep. And so I'm just grateful to be able to add my voice to what you're doing here. I want to thank the teachers and administrators. I know your job here is harder than in most schools because you're creating your own playbook, and that's not easy to do, so thanks for doing that. Young people, thank you for being here. I know you didn't have a choice in that, but I'm grateful anyways. So I'm 40 years old, right? Which means there's at least 22 trips around the sun since I was 18 years old. So when I talk in a situation like this, I have to make a special effort to remember what it was like to be 14 to 18 years old. I don't think being 40 makes me better than you. I think it just makes me grayer than you. So I made a special effort before I came out here from Chicago to try to remember what it was like to be a high schooler. I dug around in some old boxes, and I found my high school ID cards. So this is me. Can you believe all the hair? This was me several days before 9th grade started. I can tell you I was not thinking about the calling upon my life at all. I was mostly wanting 3 things. I wanted my braces off. I wanted to not get beat up on the first day of high school. And I wanted to make sure no one found out that in secret I was not listening to Pearl Jam, I was listening to Mariah Carey. Because that was going to ruin everything if anyone found out. This is me a couple days before 10th grade. I've grown about 4 inches over the summer, and I'm not thinking about my purpose or my calling. I'm thinking about how to get a couple extra bucks for Domino's Pizza because I'm always hungry. This is me a few days before my junior year of high school. At this point, my sole purpose in life is getting a date. and it's not going well, and I don't know why. And it was years before I realized that when your sole purpose in life is getting a date, you act really weird and awkward around the people you want to date because there's too much writing on it, and so they don't want to date you because you're weird and awkward. So this is me a couple days before my senior year of high school, crossing my eyes in my senior photo ID. So at this point, I decided the purpose of my life is to go to the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign and make a name for myself. I didn't really know how. I thought I was going to major in psychology, but I was going to make a name for myself in the world. But mostly I'm focused on sort of acting cooler than I feel, being a little rebellious, a little more carefree, enjoying my friends, and so on. So this is the guy that I have to remember as I talk today. So I sat down to write a book about 4 years ago. It started, a book called Lovable. And this quote captured my attention at the beginning of the book. It sort of rooted everything that I was writing in the book. The two most important days in your life are the day you are born and the day you find out why. So I'm here to talk to you about purpose and about calling. But when I think about purpose and calling, purpose, that's like a heavy word, right? When I talk to people in my therapy office about purpose and calling, it connotes sort of like there's a specific path in my life. I have to figure it out. I have to get it right. If I don't get it right, if I take a wrong turn, oh no, I've wasted my time here. Purpose is sort of a heavy word. So instead of talking about purpose, we're going to talk about something else entirely. We're going to talk about how you find your way to purpose by not focusing on purpose at all. But you focus on something else. Passion. Now, there's a couple different ways that I like to define passion and then put them together. So one of the dictionary definitions of passion is an extravagant fondness. Something you are extravagantly fond of doing. And then one of the other definitions of passion that I love comes from the Latin root for the word passion. Does anybody know what the Latin root of the word passion means? To suffer. As in the Passion of the Christ, right? The week in which Jesus suffered. So I like to combine those two definitions and to describe a passion as something that we are so extravagantly fond of doing in the world that we are willing to suffer for. Now, on the way out here, I was reading a book by someone who's about twice my age, Frederick Buechner. Has anybody ever heard of Frederick Buechner? Buechner fans? He's about 80 years old now. He's one of my favorite spiritual writers, and he's just written a new book at his late age. And I thought I'd read the introduction to of the book. It's the abridged introduction. He writes, "I am haunted now as I never was before by the sense that we all of us have the mark of God's thumb upon us. We have the image of God within us. We have a holy place within us that gets messed up in a million ways. But it's there. And more, I find myself turning inward toward that and trying to learn how to be quiet. So I'm writing, I suppose, hoping to get another few steps in that direction, toward turning off the eternal chatter, the endless dialogue that goes on inside most of us. Or at least, I can only speak for myself, to stop those words and just to exist somehow in the fullness and unspeakableness of the present, and to let whatever is down in the holy place drift up." So what I want to suggest to you today, young people, is that you came into the world with a soul specifically designed for you. It's the holy place within you, and within that soul is a passion or passions. And that those passions repeatedly drift up inside of you over the course of your life. If you're listening for them, if you're paying attention to them, they won't leave you alone. They will continue to rise up, trying to get your attention until you finally pay attention to what those passions are. So, what I want to talk about today is the 5 reasons you shouldn't chase your dreams. I want to talk about all of the millions of little ways we sort of get distracted into chasing our dreams for particular reasons that in the end don't fulfill us. And I want to talk about how we can instead chase our passions and let our dreams take care of themselves. Number one reason not to chase your dreams. You want to make people proud of you. Who wants to make people proud of them? Anybody want a parent to be proud of them? Can you raise your hand if... Okay, quit lying. Everybody raise your hands. Thank you. You're human. You have parents. You love them. You want them to love you. You have friends. You have people that you want to make proud of you. Pastors, teachers. So my son Aiden, who's 14, he is in 8th grade. He'll be starting high school next year. About 2 weeks ago, he came to my wife and I think we were sitting in the kitchen, just sort of out of the blue. He said, "Mom and Dad, I think when I grow up, I want to be a comedian." And we responded like, "Oh, yeah, that would be great, Aiden." And you could sort of see the wheels turning in his head, right? He says, he goes, or when I grow up, I also want to be a history teacher. We're like, "Yeah, that's a great idea. You love history. You love getting up and talking in front of people. That would be a great thing to do for you." And it made me think of a quote by a hospice nurse named Bronnie Ware. A hospice nurse, for those of you who don't know, is someone who basically sees the dying through the process of dying and into their passage into the next life. And she wrote a blog post a while back that went crazy viral. And what she did was she listed the top statements when she asked her dying patients, "What do you wish you'd done differently in your life?" And she wrote down those top statements and published them. And this was the number one wish. "I wish I'd had the courage to live a life true to myself, not the life others expected of me." Now, I need to make a qualification right away, okay? Because if you choose to live a life true to yourself and not a life others expect of you, you can't expect others to bankroll your life, right? Your parents love you, and they want you to become you, and they want you to chase your passions. And they want to tell you how much they love you, but they want to go to your house to tell you how much they love you, not to their basement. All right? So this isn't about sitting around and waiting to decide what you want to do in your life forever, right? This is about following your passions, being true to yourself, and figuring out how to make it in the world in the midst of that. But I digress. The point is, if you're human, all right, you're going to want to make people proud of you. I actually have an idea, and this is officially copyrighted here today, okay? I have an idea for like a gym t-shirt for middle-aged guys who go to like the rec center at lunch to play basketball and get in fights about the sport. And the t-shirt would read, "I'm not competitive, I'm still just trying to make my dad proud." So we're even at our age, we're still wanting our parents to be proud of us. But I want you to remember something. No one gets to choose your dream for you. Not even you. Your dream chooses you. You didn't get to choose what was put in that holy place within you. You don't get to choose what drifts up within you. You just have to love yourself enough to embrace whatever that is that continues to drift up inside of you and try to get your attention. So will you become your own comedian or someone else's historian? And vice versa. If you love the idea of history, if you love the idea of getting up in front of a classroom and awakening young people and awakening their minds to the lessons of history and the wisdom that can be wrought from it, the question is, will you become your own history teacher or someone else's comedian? You're not here to make people proud of you. You are here to make you more you. You were sent into the world with a self, and for the rest of your life, you just get to figure out how to live out that self more clearly and more authentically. Number 2 reason not to chase your dreams. You want to be successful. So I want to sort of redefine success here as not something that we do. Success is not about what we do. Success is about being faithful to the passions within us while we're doing whatever we do. Another way to think of it is, we oftentimes think of success as sort of reaching a certain mountaintop, right? I'm aiming for that goal and I'm going to try to chase it. But let's redefine success. If a mountain climber focused on the peak of the mountain and didn't look at what was right in front of him, how would that go? Not very well, right? A mountain climber needs to look at the next handhold. And your passions are the handhold. Following a sense of what you are here to do and the things that you love to do, the things that make you feel awake, the things that make the time go fast, is what you're here to do. So success is being faithful to those and clinging to those throughout your life. I'm going to give you 3 quick examples, okay? Aiden, my son, again, comedian or history teacher, right? So I made a list of things and passions of his. He loves adrenaline rushes. I can't even relate to it, but he loves adrenaline rushes. He loves performing and being on stage. He doesn't like writing, but he loves speaking. He's got great verbal skills. He loves helping people see the world from a new angle, and he loves making people laugh. So when I think about it, I think Aiden could actually practice all of those passions within the context of being a comedian or a history teacher. He gets to choose the way that he practices his passions. I have a friend who's a sports agent. He and I went to high school together. We played golf on the same golf team, went to the same state tournaments. He eventually went off to Dartmouth and played golf on the varsity team at Dartmouth. And then, by happenstance, he ended up becoming a sports agent in the realm of golf. And he and his wife were over at our house a couple weeks ago, and I asked him, I hadn't seen him in a long time, and I asked him, I said, so what's it like to be able to practice your passion every day, your passion for golf? And he said, oh, Kelly, my passion isn't for golf. If my passion was for golf, I should have become a doctor and taken 3 days off every weekend and played golf all day, every day. My passion is for solving people's problems. And I get to do it all day, every day. People are in crisis. I have players who need 6 problems solved in the 2 hours before a tournament, and I get to dive in and solve those problems. I get such a kick out of that. So he practices his passion for problem solving in the context of being a golf agent. Another example, I had, in the midst of an interview, podcast interview this summer, I had a mom who was interviewing me say, well, okay, I don't get it though, because my son is absolutely obsessed with March Madness every year. He clearly seems to be passionate about it, but he's never going to be a basketball player. Like, how can college athletics be something that he's has a God-given passion for? And my answer was, well, there could be all sorts of passions happening in the context of March Madness. It could be his passion for community. It could be the fact that everybody is talking about the same games and watching the same games, and so there's a sense of community happening. Maybe he has a passion for community. Or maybe he has a compassion for probability and statistics, right? Maybe it's picking the right games and so on and so forth. Maybe that's what lights his fuse. Or maybe it's a sense of leadership. Maybe he likes planning out the pool for his class. It could be anything. But clearly there's a passion being exhibited within the context of that activity. Anybody here like to play video games? Okay, good, yeah. You're getting more honest, good, yeah. Video games, in and of themselves, being entertained, unfortunately, not a passion. But within the context of playing video games, if you love playing role-playing games, right, and you're just enthralled by the storylines, right, telling a story, telling a good story, that might be a passion of yours. It might be something that you want to do with your life. Or if what you really think is cool is the increasingly complicated and beautiful scores that are associated with video games, maybe it's playing music in a way that moves other people to feel things that they wouldn't otherwise feel. Or if it's a massive multiplayer online game, maybe it's the teamwork that happens in the context of cooperating with other people you don't even know to achieve a goal. Maybe that's your passion. But if it's just being entertained, I gotta tell you, you're tricked into sleepwalking through your life. So as you're playing video games, for instance, as you're doing anything that entertains you, ask you, what might be the passion that I'm practicing in the midst of even this? And how can I be more active about practicing it in my life? Success is not about what you do. It's about being faithful to your passion while you're doing it. Don't ask yourself what you want to do. Ask yourself why you want to do it. You are not here to climb the tallest mountains. You are here to cling to your passion, no matter what mountain you are climbing. All right, number 3. Third reason not to chase your dreams. You want to be famous. Can anybody tell me what icon this is? YouTube, we know it, right? The most recent one, at least. So there's a rumor going around that a third of young people, the main thing that they want to do with their careers is be a YouTuber. Has anyone heard that rumor? Yeah. As far as I can tell, I tried to source this out, and as far as I can tell, it's just about 20 different articles that are all referencing each other, and there's no actual study. But I think the reason it seems so realistic is that it's based upon anecdotal evidence that is probably true. That increasingly, your generation wants to be famous because you have more access to fame than you have ever had before. But Unfortunately, becoming famous isn't a passion. In the midst of writing Lovable, I was sitting on the back deck of our house one night with a friend, and we were talking about this idea of passion and purpose. And he said, Kelly, if getting your book on the bestseller list is a passion of yours, it's not your God-given passion. Because a God-given passion is something that anyone at any point in history could have practiced. And there were bestseller lists 100 years ago, so that can't be your God-given passion. What is it, Kelly? What is your God-given passion in the context of writing this book? And so I played with that for a while, and I thought, well, I have a passion for writing, that's part of it. But as I burrowed down, what I started to realize is that my passion is speaking in the caring voice of a father. And it made me realize why when people ask me, oh, so now that you're a writer, are you going to quit being a therapist? And my answer is always no way. That'd be like asking me, now that you're a writer, are you going to quit being a dad? No, because in all three of those areas, as dad, therapist, and writer, I get to practice my passion for speaking in the caring voice of a father. So remember, on the inside of every famous person is an ordinary person. And the ordinary person is where their peace resides. It's okay to want fame, but peace doesn't come with fame. Maybe a third of young people want fame, but I can tell you 100% of young people and old people want to be at peace. They want to be whole, and they want to be themselves. I'm going to give you an example of this. This is my daughter, Caitlin, and this was almost exactly, actually, probably a week ago this moment. A famous actor named Ed Asner came to our small town in Illinois. Ed Asner was a president of the Screen Actors Guild in Hollywood. He's a 7-time Emmy winner. You might know him best as the Santa Claus in the movie Elf. And you might also know him as the voice of the old man Carl in Up. Yeah. It is. That's exactly the reaction my daughter had. I'm like, let's go up and say hi to this old man. She's like, no! And I'm like, it's the voice of the old man enough. She's like, okay. So we waited in line for about an hour to get our book signed. And while we were waiting, it was like, he was doing his thing. He was in his persona. He was joking. He was making people laugh. It was a delight to watch. Caitlin was the only young person at the book signing. We walked up, she sat down, and he looked at her. His eyes sort of watered up with tears. And he put his hand on her head and he said, she hadn't done anything. He said, you made my day. And all of the sort of manic energy of the joking he'd been doing with everybody else just sort of bled away. And I had this sense of sitting next to a very ordinary person, right? An 87-year-old man who's probably not going to be on this planet for much longer. And he just looked at me, looked me right in the eye and said, thank you. And then he signed our book to Caitlin and Kelly, I love you both. The best of all things to you, Ed Asner. I got to see the ordinary person inside the famous person, and a sense of peace filled the room when that ordinary person came out. What would you do with your life even if it got 0 views? You're not here to be famous. You're here to be ordinary, just like all of us. And there is loveliness in ordinariness. There is peacefulness in ordinariness. Number 4 reason not to chase your dreams, because you want to save the world. So your generation is more likely to want to be famous than any previous generation. Your generation, though, is also more likely to want to save the world. And thank you, by the way. About 3, 4, 5 weeks ago, we were at a soccer game. My middle son and I, he's 10, Quinn. You'll see him in a little bit. And he asked for the keys at the end of the game. I was talking to some adults, and he went to the car, and I followed him about 30 minutes later, and he was sitting in the car, like, soaked in sweat. And I was like, dude, why did you start the car? And he just looked at me very matter-of-factly. He said, your generation ruined the planet. My generation has to save it. Yeah. But Quinn said something very important there. He didn't say, I have to save the world. He said, my generation has to save the world. He wants to be part of a generation that does it. I want to tell you a little bit of story about a guy who felt like it was all on him to save the world. You guys recognize these people? VeggieTales? So for about a decade, my wife and I attended a church with the creator of VeggieTales, Phil Vischer. He was also the voice of Bob the Tomato and Larry the Cucumber. And he will tell you that he started a company when he was very young called Big Idea. And Big Idea was the company through which he was going to spread the good news of the gospel and save the world. And so he created VeggieTales through that company. But what he began to do, because he was so ambitious about saving the world on his own, that he spread his resources so thin through so many different investments and projects, that when he got sued for a particular thing and lost the lawsuit, he did not have the money to pay the lawsuit, and he lost his rights to VeggieTales, his very own creation. So Phil Vischer is no longer in charge of the VeggieTales movies that you see. So now Phil Vischer is back to spreading the good news. He's created a new company, though, and the company's name is Jellyfish Labs. And he calls it Jellyfish Labs because a jellyfish responds to the current. A jellyfish, in his mind, if the current is the Holy Spirit, a jellyfish isn't trying to save the world. A jellyfish is trying to respond to the nudge of the Holy Spirit on any given day, week, or year. So his company has like a 1 or 2 year plan now, not a plan to save the world. One of my favorite quotes that highlights this for me, I think of this quote all the time. Lighthouses don't go running all over an island looking for boats to save. They just stand there shining. From Anne Lamott, author. Another one that sort of gets at this idea. Don't ask what the world needs. Ask what makes you come alive and go do it. Because what the world needs is people who have come alive. What would you do if all you had to do was serve the world instead of saving it? Because you are not here to save the world. You're here to live awake, to live your passion. And the truth is, if every person did that, the world would be saved twice over, 3 times over, 4 times over. We believe in a God that is good enough to say, the world needs that. I will create a soul and send it into the world, and that soul will love doing that. We serve a God that is good enough to say, I want you to enjoy what you do on this planet, and in the process, if all those good souls I send into the world do that thing, the world will be saved twice over. But you can't be every person. You can only be you. 5th reason not to chase your dreams is that you want God to bless you. And one day he prayed, God, what do you want me to do? And God finally spoke to him. And God said, I don't know, Don, what do you want to do? And he said, no. God, what do you want me to do? For the 2nd time, he heard an answer. I don't know, Don. What do you want to do? What is drifting up from that holy place within you? I've put something there, but it is this beautiful mystery that it's what I want you to do and what you want to do. That's some pretty good news. God isn't waiting to bless you. Young people, God has already blessed you with you. You are here to practice being you. What is the note you're here to play in this symphony we call humanity, which is just now tuning up? Or what are the notes? What are the various passions that are drifting up from that holy place within you? You are not here to earn a blessing. You are here to be the blessing you already are. These are my kiddos. We wake up, we go out to the East Coast every summer, and we wake up one morning and we go see the sunrise. So this is this past summer. Let's see. So Aiden, comedian, history teacher. Quinn, probably gonna try to run a company or something. He wants to save the world, but he also wants to make lots of money. It's just in his DNA. And this is Caitlin. As people who have heard my talks previously this week know, like truly, like if I gave this talk to her and I said, "What's your passion?" She'd say making rainbows. She paints her hair in the color of rainbows. She paints them on her shoes. She lines up the hangers in her closet in the colors of rainbows. So whatever she does, I have a sense that we're practicing her passions for restoring order to the environment around her and bringing joy to the people around her. I just sense that that's what she's wired for, but who knows what that's going to be. And truly, who knows for Aiden and Quinn either. There's a long way to go. And that's sort of what I have to remember as a parent. That they're going to go through their wandering stage, right? You don't start to get a sense of what your passions are overnight. You try this thing, you go, oh man, that didn't feel right. I didn't like that. And then you try this thing, you go, whoa. All of a sudden, this crazy mystery of life that seems so chaotic and pointless at times, while I was doing that, everything sort of made sense. I felt like I had a meaning. I felt like I had a purpose in this life. And so you take that and then you go do this thing, you do a little more of it, and that's a mess, and you make mistakes, and you fail, and you wander. We all go through that stage of life. So I do want to take the pressure off of you, to feel like you've got to walk out of here today after hearing this dude talk for 30 minutes and know what your passions are. You're on a journey, and on that journey you are going to begin to pay attention to and become aware of what's drifting up inside of you. So, I'll leave you with these words from Lovable. I set out to write a book about world-changing purpose. Instead, the book started writing me. Now I know there are no world changers. We're not here to be superheroes. We're here simply to do our thing, to let our passion out, to commit to it and suffer for it if necessary, to redeem some bit of our pain with it, and to find joy in that. The world does not need you to change it. It needs you to love it by doing what you're here to do. These are the words that I wanted my kids to know at the very end of Lovable, and they're the words that I want you to take out of here with you today. You're here to love the world by doing what you're here to do, by responding to that thing that is drifting up in the holy place inside of you. Thank you.